Joining us now, Director of Communications for the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, Andrij Dobriansky. Good morning to you. So this barrage of attacks overnight from both sides, is there a statement being made here?
I think the main question is if somebody wants to talk about card playing, Ukraine just showed that it is the largest manufacturer of strategic and tactical drones in the world, and they have the ability to keep this going for a long time.
So a comment from the Secretary of State. He said the most important thing that we have to leave here with is a strong sense that Ukraine is prepared to do difficult things, like the Russians are going to have to do difficult things to end this conflict, or at least pause it in some way for now. On the Ukrainian side, what do those difficult things look like?
Well, if we take the example from the Russians, the Ukrainians should just give a maximalist term sheet. This is what Lieutenant General Kellogg referred to it as, and say that Ukraine doesn't give up anything. Ukraine is going ahead full steam. That's exactly what the Russians have been doing to the United States. In fact, the Russians aren't going to be in Saudi Arabia. They're demanding that the United States negotiator fly to Moscow and have a conversation there. I still don't see any concessions being made by Moscow, but also we are completely seeing that the United States policy is being dictated by Moscow. So unless Secretary of State Marco Rubio has anything to add about what Moscow is doing, I think these conversations are a little premature.
What do you think the concessions from Russia should be?
Well, as Ukraine pointed out, they are occupying foreign territory, so there should be some kind of conversation about are they going to change their constitution to which includes four independent provinces of Ukraine. Is that going to remain in Russia's constitution? And all this conversation from substitutes for the administration throughout the world, whether it's op-eds or diplomats or members of the administration saying that Ukraine needs elections, I haven't heard a single person from the administration say that Russia should have an election. So why don't we hear Ukraine say, we would like to see new elections held in Russia?
Another point that Marco Rubio made, he said the Russians can't conquer all of Ukraine. Obviously, it will be very difficult for Ukraine in any reasonable time period to sort of force the Russians back all the way to where they were in 2014. Is there some truth to that, logistically speaking?
Well, logistically, it's going to get very messy for the Russians very soon as the ground thaws and their tanks are going to just get bogged down in mud. They've been going very slow beginning at the end of January. February was pretty much, they didn't make any progress at all. And frankly, Ukraine has put down some offensive options down in the eastern areas of Ukraine, the territory we were just talking about, that has Russia on its heels in a lot of areas. So this conflict can go on for a much longer time than what is being proposed by the White House, unless there's something serious. And again, there's nothing serious being talked about if there are no concessions being made from Russia.
Yeah, I think a couple weeks into the war, no one thought 3 years later we'd be where we are today. The talks come nearly 2 weeks after the contentious meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky and Vice President Vance in the White House. Europe is fully backing Ukraine as support from the U.S. remains a bit strained at this point. Andrij, how are those relationships playing into this conversation?
Well, at the very same time as this is happening in Saudi Arabia, France is hosting a meeting of world defense leaders, ministers of defense and other interested parties, including countries that are outside the NATO alliance. So we have countries like Austria showing up, Ireland with the Taoiseach having visited Ukraine several times already. Europe is moving full scale ahead in terms of how to keep its defense together. It's very clear that this administration from the United States is making everybody very nervous in the world with the fact that it's attacking its own neighbors in Canada and Mexico. It is changing, wildly flip-flopping on its positions day to day on numerous issues. And so Europe is going ahead with Emmanuel Macron calling this meeting. And then, of course, on Saturday, we have a virtual meeting of world leaders to follow up on the London summit. And that's being led by the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer.
Messy is a good word to describe this form of diplomacy right now. Andrij, thank you as always for your time, sir.
Thank you.